In with a reflection on Oliver Wendell Holmes, the great jurist's notion about the purpose of religion. And Holmes said that the purpose of religion is to bring comfort to those who are distressed and those who are and to those who feel very comfortable. The purpose of religion is to make them uncomfortable and to challenge them to be more, to do more. So I sense that balance often, and during these days, on one hand, we want to bring comfort during these very uncomfortable days, and we want to bring a sense of peace and a sense of hope and how important those things are. And yet, on the other hand, we also have to be challenged and cannot allow ourselves to be complacent. This morning, I want to begin by talking about the insight of one of my favorite contemporary thinkers and authors, and that's Malcolm Gladwell. More than a few sermons over the last decade has been devoted to ideas of Gladwell's. Dan Ross brought me this one to my attention. In one of my favorite of all of Gladwell's books, Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell seeks to expose how random factors that are beyond our control make some of us much more likely to succeed than others. The classic example is the following. More Major League Baseball players were born in August than in any other month. You know why that is? My class from yesterday knows. Because until 2006, Little League's baseball age cutoff date was July 31st, meaning that if you were born in August, you were the oldest in your peer group. You were bigger than the rest and probably better than many of the others. All because of the happy accident of your birthday, if you were born in August. And so you were chosen and you played and you were coached because you seemed to have more potential than the other little kids. And the game was reinforced. And the result is today, more MLB players are born in August than any other month. I often hear successful people say, and I know all of you do also, that I am what I am because of grit and hard work and determination. And to some degree, that may be true. But in that, there's always an assessment, an unspoken assessment, that people who don't make it because they simply didn't work hard enough. Gladwell seeks to undermine the narrative that the most successful amongst us, the singular talent who supposedly rise to greatness from nothing or success from nothing, succeed because of their grit and gumption and because of unparalleled genius and unusual gifts. Far too often, these fanciful stories conceal the advantages that were essential to a person's success. Hidden advantages, like the baseball player being born in August, or the socioeconomic class of your parents, the schools that you were sent to from the time you were a young child, the access to information. This is one of the primary issues that is in today's struggle for social justice, economic fairness, racial equality. Metaphorically, it's also about August birthdays. Some people have all the luck. Consider the family that you were born into, and now consider what your life might have been like if, as Tevye said in the original, Tevye the milkman, and as it's translated in the Hebrew, Lu Hayiti Rothschild, if I was Rothschild. That was changed, if I was a rich man. Or consider where you would be if your mom was a black sharecropper and you never met your dad. I raise this today because of the narratives that we're reading in the Torah. One could call the Torah the granddaddy of all rags to riches stories. It chronicles the journey of our people from the bitter suffering of slavery in Egypt to the sweet success that they found in the land of milk and honey, in the land of Israel. They went from hunger, they went from oppression and pain to a place that brought them great success. And in Parashat Eikev, we find that the children of Israel now are on the cusp of their greatest triumph at long last. After 400 years of slavery and 40 years of trekking through the wilderness, they're going to enter into a promised land. And we're talking about a people that were pretty beaten and depressed, former slaves, and people that complained an awful lot, on the verge of hopelessness. The Torah tells us so many times that the reason for their ascendancy is the following. It was the mighty hand and the outstretched arm of God. We're told that God chose the children of Israel to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Yet for many of us, the notion that Jews are uniquely chosen or uniquely cherished by God is among the most challenging ideas of our theology and our narratives, because sadly it often is used to evoke conceit or Jewish superiority. And that doesn't feel right. It's gotten us into trouble. But it's not just something that I, as a contemporary rabbi, are saying. It goes back to the rabbis of much earlier times. In the Midrash, in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, there's a paradigm-shifting answer. One day, God and the angels gathered, according to this Midrash, to decide who amongst them would represent each of the nations of the world. And so they chose to assign the different nations by casting lots. The first angel picked his lot, and it was the Moabites. The second angel picked his, and it was the Jebusites. The third picked his, and it was the Edomites, and on and on. Finally, it was God's turn to pick. And who did God pick? The lot fell upon the children of Israel. In other words, according to this midrash by the rabbis, Jews won the divine lottery. That's it. Dumb luck. Which is why it is all the more prescient when Moses gives his warning in today's Parsha. Don't forget where your good fortune comes from. Don't forget how you reached this promised land. And when you have eaten your fill and have built fine houses to live in, and your herds and your flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold have increased, and everything you own has prospered, beware lest your heart grow haughty and you forget the eternal. You forget your God. You forget where you came from. And you'll say to yourself, by my own power and the might of my own hand has made these fortunes for me. You know why? Because we learn in the text that then you'll lose it. There's a statistic out there somewhere which indicates that the vast majority of people who win lotteries spend the money very quickly on material desires, and then they lose it. They don't sit back for a moment and think that they were really lucky to have received this, and how should they deal with that fortune? No, the luck eventually wears out. E.B. White, a famous author of great children's literature, wrote, "Luck is not something you can mention in the presence of self-made men. But luck is something that we should be talking about, especially in the presence of self-made men, because just thinking about luck, just thinking about how we got to where we are, can in fact humble us and make us better people." I could frame it a little bit different. Just thinking about luck can make us think about our blessings. Studies have shown that simply being prompted to think about the role of good fortune in our success makes us more generous to other people, makes us more willing to give of our time and our resources for the common good. When we externalize the causes of our achievement, we realize then how much we owe to the world. If we think ourselves as being winners, we ultimately make ourselves losers. But we never see the source of our being or our success as just luck, not the Jewish people. We attribute to some grander force in the universe, and we call it God. And it's our way of saying that it's not all luck. We too have the capacity to make things happen, to make things work, that we have to approach that force. And then we use our blessings with Tovah for good. And what about misfortune? That which happens to us because of some random act or because of the action of someone outside of ourselves who's evil. Is that simply bad luck? Well, if the fundamentalists in this world, those amongst us and others, would say no, that too comes from God. And when you question them why, they'll say, we don't understand God's way. But theologically, in the most fundamental way, we can say that God is the source of all things in this universe. So I challenge myself and all of us to wonder, is that another way of saying what Gladwell says? We have to be aware of the luck or the misfortune in the world. What happens to us should bring us awareness and a willingness to use that. That is where we are, what we have achieved, what we know. To use that with responsibility and a greater awareness that it brings with it obligations to others. That we are not the source, the only source of our own good fortune. In our tradition, you may know sorcery and witchcraft are signs, or any signs from another source are forbidden. And yet we have seen, and those of you who have been to Israel, and I'm sure most of you have, from archaeological uncoverings in ancient synagogues, the signs of the stars and horoscopes were integrated into ancient Jewish life. But even more, what do we say to each other after a success, after an achievement, after a significant moment in our lives? What we say is Mazel Tov. Mazel is luck. Mazel is about the mazelut. It's about the stars in the heaven. We want the stars to be aligned. And when someone does something good or achieves a great moment, we wish them Mazel Tov. And we accept that. It's a part of our parlance and it's a part of our consciousness. And it's a realization we don't do it all ourselves. We're just lucky sometimes. Or luck combines with our own power and our own desires. When somebody gets married, we wish them mazal and bracha. Mazal, luck, and bracha, blessing. There's a distinction made between mazal and bracha. Mazal, luck, is the stuff that happens to us that's out of our control. You know, you meet the right person at the right time and you fall in love. And who's to say why that is? But bracha are the good things that happen to us, the blessings that happen to us based on what we bring to life and what we do with life. So inspired by Parashat Eikev, think of something that you have recently accomplished. And think of the factors beyond your control that contributed to those accomplishments. It could start with loving ancestors, wise ancestors, loving parents, a supportive partner, an outstanding teacher. Perhaps it was a job or a meeting or a chance meeting or an opportunity that opened just at the right moment. We cannot ignore the mazel that's involved, nor the blessing, nor the bracha that we bring. And as this parsha encourages gratitude in its expression for everything that we received in the land, we have to remember something. We learn it in the parsha, and also I recently saw it and wrote it down from the poet Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou wrote, "Let gratitude be the pillow upon which you say your nightly prayer." I want to repeat that again. Let gratitude be the pillow upon which you say your nightly prayers. And that's why we say every evening and every morning, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. We direct our souls and our spirits and our gratitude to a greater force, to the great spirit of the universe. And it reminds us that we don't control it all. Sometimes it's just that we were lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. And for those baseball players out there, sometimes it's just that you were lucky enough to be born in August. All of us will experience luck. Some of us good luck, some of us bad luck, most of us a little bit of each. And we can learn from it. We can learn to be grateful, and we can learn to do more and contribute more, to be better as we move ahead. And from our tradition, we read that we should learn the obligations that come out of our good fortune, out of our good luck and our blessing, our obligations to contribute to humanity. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We'll continue with the Chatzi Kaddish. It is found on